Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our third webinar. And today we're going to be talking about the IQSP. Welcome to our mobile viewpoint studio. Here we are in the Netherlands. By way of introduction, my name is Mark Andrews. I'm the Global Sales Manager for Mobile Viewpoint. Michelle?
I'm Michel Bynes. I'm Managing Director of Mobile Viewpoint, and together with Mark, we will tell you something more today about the IQSportsProducer and a bit more about the technical details. And of course, we will show the devices a little bit more close up as well.
Sure. So to start with, just a bit of housekeeping, really. The idea of today, it's going to be about 20 minutes. I'm going to do a sort of a brief overview of IQSP, just for those people who are not familiar with it. But really the purpose of today is to go a little bit deeper. So Michelle will be showing some of the admin panels and some of the feature functionality that we use to control the system. After that, we will then have a Q&A session. So within Zoom itself, I don't know whether you've had an opportunity to navigate around it, but there's a Q&A box where you can basically add questions as we go along. The idea is at the end, once we've completed what we're going to talk about, we'll then go through the questions. So please feel free, if you've got questions, just to remind yourself, just write them in there so we have them at the end. Everybody's on mute, so don't worry about making too much noise or anything. But we will begin. Michelle, if you want to start with the first slide. So, IQSportsProducer, what is it? So ultimately, it's a way of doing sports productions, but without the need of a camera crew or director. And we're actually using AI to control the camera, the movement, and the direction. So how do we do this? So we have a camera. In this slide, for example, we're actually showing our own camera. That's known as the X-Cam. And it's a camera that consists of 4 by 4K cameras, which is giving a panoramic view over the field of play. So typically, this is mounted 8 to 10 meters above the field. It's sort of semi-permanently installed. And each camera is basically giving a clip of the field, and we're putting together a warped panoramic shot of the whole field of play. Michelle, if you'd like to go to the next slide. Now, what we have installed is the camera, but we also have what we call the IQProducer. This is our AI server that's taking the stream from the camera. And basically, using AI, we basically follow the action. So whether it's the ball or the players, it's mostly the ball. But we're dewarping, and we create what we call a virtual zoom of the action. And from that, we can then live stream this. We can do this in several ways, one of which is via Link Matrix, which is our management platform, which you can push out to social media. But we can also push it to a broadcaster. So if they have SDI workflows and they're sort of looking to broadcast on a sort of broadcast channel, then we could provide higher quality video resolution for that sort of scenario. So Michelle, if you'd like to go to the next slide. So here we actually have a video. So here's the panoramic view of everything. And it's actually the AI that's following the action. Now in the bottom right-hand corner, we have the example of what we're seeing, of what we're playing out. But in fact, what we're doing is we're recording the whole field of play. And now what this allows us, if the AI was to miss something or there was some off-screen action we wanted to show later, we record everything. We're able to go back later and analyze that as well. But we're creating a virtual zoom. So there's no movement, there's no mechanical movement. It's a software virtual camera, if you like, which is just moving across the clipped shots of everything within the panoramic view. That's a quick view of vPanel. Actually, vPanel, it might be interesting, but it's just a part of our vPilot. We show it on Tuesday. Just a quick plug, but we're actually doing the whole webinar through vPilot, which again is our own AI production studio. Now, what we have on the next slide here is really showing all the streams. So we can create the master stream, which is the AI-controlled stream, which is following the action of the players and the ball. But it's also possible to create additional streams. So if you're using this for training purposes, for example, and you wanted to have virtual cameras on the goals, for example, you can do that. But it's up to you. And actually later on, we'll show you how you can create these virtual cameras. Michelle, you want to go to the next slide? We have a couple of scenarios. Earlier, I showed you our own camera, our own 4K camera. So we have a couple of entry-level points. One is a sort of a mid-tier, which is what we have here. So instead of our own camera, we have the Hikvision camera. It's a 30 frame per second, 32 megapixel camera. It's using 4K cameras, but it's more sort of the entry level, if you like, and it can be used for web streaming. And if you're only looking at web streaming to social media, what have you, it gives excellent quality in terms of video. But we also have the X cam as well, which we will show. So it's a higher frame rate, 60 frames per second, giving better video resolution as well, which is more for broadcasters and that sort of stuff as well. So Michelle, next slide. Michelle, perhaps you want to chat about this slide?
Yeah, this slide explains a bit how the system handles the video coming from the camera. And I'm explaining this because later on in the presentation you will see some videos of a match that is played that is not live, but actually it is a replay from storage. So what the IQProducer server does, it takes the video from the camera. It's actually 4 individual 4K streams, and those 4 original streams are stored on disk. And then they are in a replay mode played back, and then the whole stitching and whole AI starts over again. There's all the AI you're looking at today, and all the stitching is done in live, but the source is actually stored content coming once from the camera.
So just to sort of conclude a little bit, I'm going to talk a bit about the setup before I hand over to Michelle. So Michelle, if you want to go to the next slide. So on site, what do we have? We have the camera situated above the field of play. That in itself will then connect via the network to our IQProducer, which is our AI server that we have installed on site. The camera itself, you don't necessarily need power for it. It is powered directly through the Ethernet. So hence we have a power over Ethernet switch. And then we need a good internet connection out from the stadium or the sports ground if we're going to be pushing to, well, wherever we're pushing to, really, because it's a live stream. And if we go to the next slide, in terms of requirements for setup, this is one of the first questions people ask us, what do we need in order to set it up? Well, the camera itself, if you're outside, obviously it can be used inside, but if you're outside, we want to basically have it 8 to 10 meters. If you've got a friendly lamppost or something on the edge of the pitch, that's perfect. Sturdier the better, that it doesn't move in the wind. Obviously inside a stadium, there's normally a wall or something. It tends to be semi-permanently installed, though we are getting asked more about mobile setup, so we're looking at possibilities for that as well. In terms of distance away from the pitch, it sort of depends. With the XCam version, we have very powerful zoom capabilities. So in fact, we can be as far as 50 meters away from the pitch. The Hikvision between 0 and 20. We can actually be on the sideline as well, but up to 20 meters away, ideally as well. So that's sort of me concluding sort of the introduction. If you're interested in sort of, where we would use this, in fact, we're not trying to replace that sort of tier 1 football with the camera crew and everything else. It's more for sort of the tier 2 sports, the grassroots sports, but some of the tier 1 clubs, we have Ajax and Porto using us, often for training, or the under 21s. We've been doing a lot with the women's football as well, where they don't necessarily have the money or the resource to be able to afford a complete production crew. So this is a really good economical alternative. So Michelle, I don't know if you want to switch back to the camera. There we go. So what I'm going to do now, I'm actually going to share my screen, and we're going to play some of the videos from here. So hopefully if I screen this, share that. There we go. So what I'm going to do is hand over to Michelle, and he'll be talking through some of these videos.
Yes. So the first, we made some videos to keep the presentation clear and short. So we made some screen captures. So this is a screen capture of the new link matrix. As you know, we planned quite a nice releases for the NAB this year, but unfortunately the NAB is not there, so you will get it anyhow. This is a preview of the new link matrix. And the link matrix is our platform for connecting sources with destinations. On the left side, you see thumbnails of the sources, and on the right side you see the destinations. It can be decoders or social media channels, and by a drag and drop you can bring them live. Perhaps you should play back a little bit the video first, Mark.
Sure.
So what you see over here is actually the new version of the link matrix, and instead of only showing thumbnails, It also can now be a little multi-viewer. So if you pushing the play button, you can really see the source playing. So you get a more idea of what goes on, what comes in from the field. Next to that, there is also live. You can see the statistics of the system, so the bit rate, the input settings, and delay and bit rate, and also audio levels you can see. And if you click on the thumbnails, you can still see again the details of the system as used to. So about the SIM cards, how much bitrate they are doing. You can see it from the different video inputs, because some of our units have multiple video inputs. And it's all more convenient than it was before, but of course the information stays in some sense the same, but the usability is much better, we think. And you can also now see in one overview where your stream is going to. Sometimes people were not aware that they were streaming to somebody's decode, and now you can see in one glance where it is going to. And also you can of course see the average bitrate that went on in the past time. And then you can also still go back to your system remotely and configure the system as you used to. So on the first 5 parts, you see actually our IQSportsProducer live at the moment from IA's playground. And yeah, we can put them on play, of course, but there's nobody there due to the corona crisis. There is nobody allowed to be in any sports venue, I think, at the moment. And a lot of pigeons like to use the pitch now, and every now and then you see some seagulls as well. But this is how we're going to use your link matrix in the future. And I think we should now go to the next video, which will show you how we can go to the sports producer.
So Michel, it might be worth just mentioning, what is Link Matrix?
Link Matrix are our management platform. So if you have your IQ or your WMT, the video goes from your IQ directly to your social or to your decoders. This is really the management platform. You can remotely configure it, see statistics, see how things are going on. You can also change parameters like delay, bitrate,
and it's a free service?
It's a free service, yes. It comes for free with our package. So the basic support package is for free with Mobile Viewpoint, and that contains the link matrix.
Okay. Let me start the second video.
So this is the first video really about the IQ. And what we show over here is that with our AI, we can also detect, of course, the ball next to the players. And with this information, we can also detect the game start and goals. So what you see over here is the green dot is the game start. And we detect that because you know that the game starts, in this case, I think at 1600. And the first moment that the ball goes in the middle and the referee blows his whistle that the game will start. And that's what you will see happening quite soon. And this is also used to later on trigger overlays with clocks, and also to, of course, trigger the goal counter. You can do it manual, but this will be the automatic startup. So there we go, and the game is running. And you are now actually inside our clipping tool called Clipper. And next to seeing the game, you can actually also make clips. That's very convenient, of course, in this case, for putting it quickly to social media. So the game starts, and within 30 seconds, you can actually send the start of the game to the internet and to your social media. But of course, you can also use it to make clips from all other highlights. You see many dots on the timeline, and the color stands for corners, free kicks, and throw-ins. And if you as you can see over here, you can multiple clips from the different highlights, and you can put them after each other and make an easy summary almost when the game is still running. So Clipper enables you as a social media presenter or a manager to be quick with the goals and all the highlights. And for trainers, it's very interesting to make clips of specific moments in the game and send it to the players and to analysts to give the verdict about the quality of the team or the players. Actually, we're seeing now the main cam, of course, but you're also able to get the other virtual cams. So one of them is, for example, in this case, the virtual cam of the goalie. This is the panorama view, which we talk about later. And you can make clips of all those cameras, including the panorama cam. This is the goalie cam. So this is really interesting for analysts to study the goalie if she does, in this case it's a female, if she does the right things and she acts according to what you expect. So these are the static cutouts you can make and really see how things are going. And as I said, very interesting for analytics parties.
Yeah, it might be just worth emphasizing when we do these sort of cutouts, they're actually virtual cutouts, and they're created in software from the panoramic view.
You're cutting them from the panorama. Because also you have multi-camera support, so you can put up multiple of those panoramic cams along the pitch, and they can really switch between different viewpoints, so on the 60-meter line or behind the goal. That's the more advanced setup.
Right.
So what I also like to show over here, that is really for training purposes, is that you can actually render the panoramic video in the screen. Then we go to what we call the WebGL player, that actually, like you know from YouTube, that you can develop in your browser, and then you can do your own cameraman work. So now you can move over the screen. I do that with my mouse, but you can also choose a joystick. Then especially for trainers or for analysts, they can make their own video. So in the back end of the system we create now, based on the position of the mouse, we create a cutout, and then we can make clips for specific things you like to see. Especially we get a lot of feedback from clubs who want to use this also for trainers and analysts, that they can make their own video of the game instead of the automatic tracking game, which mainly follows the play, but not what other people are doing, which are perhaps outside the pitch.
It's interesting that you could see all the orange dots are all the players running around. So there's no GPS tracking devices. We're tracking all
the
this.
red dots you see over there is actually all the players we detect with the AI in the video. And we can also send those locations via a JSON stream to any third-party analytics software, for example.
Okay, so yeah, so there's a big plus there by being able to use with the analytical packages. Yeah. Okay.
So this is the IQ calendar. What we're going to demonstrate, the IQ calendar is actually the heart of your system if you want to do everything fully automatic. In the IQ calendar, you can schedule all your matches, for example, for the whole weekend, and they can then automatically start and run. So you can select a date, then you can select the start time over here, and then of course you can fill in the name of the game. In this case, we do Manchester City against, I think we made it Ajax. Females. So you can select which IQ producer box it is. And some producers have more fields, more cameras, so you can select which camera you want to use, in this case Hoofdveld. You can add an overlay, what you will see later on, in this case we call it scoreboard. And over here you select the destinations where the stream has to go to if it goes live. So you can drag and drop your YouTube events. You can also select a dedicated decoder where it goes live on. Just drag and drop from left to right. And you can of course do multiple social media events. So the stream can be sent to multiple destinations at the same time. And by selecting, you can also change the parameters of the stream. So you can alter the resolution for with transcoding on the back automatically for social media. And as soon as you can now see that we created one destination on YouTube and one on the decoder. By hitting the plus, it really gets in the calendar planned, as you see right now. And this you can do for many matches. And this will be the trigger to automatically start the broadcast. And based on the start match detection, we start automatically the overlay with the timers. And also we can automatically do the counter of the scores. And we can do it together with an OCR of the scoreboard if available. So we can combine our image recognition with OCR of the scoreboard to give you a count of the score and the time.
So the fact we can schedule games actually means if you schedule in advance, you don't need anybody to do this. It will really take care of itself.
No, this is really the IQ schedule of calendar is really made for people who want to schedule the games on their venue for the whole weekend, from the youngsters till the olders, and you don't want to attend, so you want to do it fully automatically. But we also have an interface for the more manual type of people. So we see a lot of requests coming in for people who want to do automatic, but want to have somebody back home who just does the score and does the replays himself. So it gets a bit semi-automatic, but you can do it really remote. You don't have to send a cameraman in the field. You can do everything centrally. So really remote production.
Yeah.
But first we will go to the camera positioner, as we call it. We talked a little bit about the virtual cameras in the previous slides, videos. So what you see over here is our camera position tool. Here you can see the virtual cameras. So on the left you see the main cam. That's of course the red block. That's fully automatic, but you also have the blue, green and orange cams, which are the virtual cameras you can set manually. So by dragging and dragging the squares, the green and you can actually change the point. And with the plus and the minus, you can change the zoom and so point your manual virtual cameras. And in this case, we do it both on the goals from left and right, because that's what a lot of people like to have, for example, on SDI output to manually switch between, or later on to use it in an analytics video, so you can really watch what happened, especially for the goal in a zoomed in shot. So, and it is of course again done with my mouse, but you can also use a joystick for your laptop or PC to make this happen. There you see it going.
But it is very easy and very intuitive to use.
Yeah, it's really it's very easy to do this.
Yeah.
And actually, it is very interesting to have those extra streams later on for perhaps also making a more detailed summary of the match, for example. So you can go cutouts from those other virtual cameras.
Okay.
And then the last video that will show us the half automated way. So this is the control room. This is where a manual director will be. So what you see over here is actually the score overlay, the time running. And over here you can pause and reset game time, but you can also change the score by clicking on the red and blue buttons. And you can also over here select which play you're doing. So if you select basketball, the scoreboard will be different because you have those quarter time setups over there. You can also over here add highlights, so make manually, do it automatic, but you can do it also manual over here. So as soon as you make a highlight, then actually you can also play it back at moments in time that is not that interesting to see. Or, for example, after the goal or when there's an injury, you can play them as you do over here. So you press the one highlight, you get this small animation you can upload that shows you starting a highlight. And that will also be shown again as soon as it stops. And on the lower and the left side, you see, of course, already in preview of the summary you're running at the moment. And that was the end of the summary. Then we go back to the live match. But you see, this is the way how you can manually make the broadcast even more vivid by adding your own highlight moments instead of only the one we can detect with our mainly goals at the moment. So after a goal, we can automatically play a replay of the goal moment. And over here you see that we changed the score. And the player you're looking at is actually a WebRTC player, so there is a small delay of about 1.5 seconds between you actually setting things and before you see it. But that's the benefit of having WebRTC players and websites. You don't need any applications. So this is the cockpit, as we could call it, for people doing semi-automatic productions.
Which is interesting. Obviously, in terms of setting an expectation, we're going to be as good as a 10-man camera crew that's sent to do a tier 1, but with this sort of feature functionality, it certainly makes it very professional.
If you put it on full automatic, you have the chance that things go wrong. So there is a goal detected, it was not a goal because it is not valid.
Yeah.
So that can happen. But with this setup, you can do with that. You don't have that problem, but still you can do with it only a minimal amount of people. You can make a live broadcast of a sports match.
Interesting. So Michelle, we've been looking at link matrix, but what about if I want to manage the box itself, the IQ Sports Producer?
Yeah. The box, the producer himself has a website which you will show a little bit, so you have an idea how things work.
Hopefully.
There it is.
As if by magic, here we are.
Yes, I will take over the mouse to make the demonstration, Mark. So this is the website of the box. I think most people know it from our system. But what I'd like to show you over here is what you can see on the box itself. So you can see a real-time view of the detection of the ball and the people. But below is it's more interesting part over here. This is, by the way, the OCR stuff. So these are the counters you have to drag and drop on a virtual camera where the scoreboard is. But this is the basics where you start, all below here. So over here, you have to put, when you set up the system, temporarily or fixed, you have to point once on this type of locations. Click. So you do this for all the corners of the pitch, including the penalty left and the penalty right. And we use this information from you to automatically calculate things like the mask and the pitch, using two types of masks to mask out false positives. So we're masking out with the black other spectators that are definitely not players. You also mask out balls that are perhaps on the side. And the pitch is really the pitch, and the mask is more a little bit wider to detect, for example, also corners, so that we know there's a corner, and then we also take that in the AI. That's a very important thing that you do this right, but this very easy setup enables you also to set it up temporarily. So you go to a stadium, you put up the IQ camera in the middle, you go to the website on site, you put you select the coordinates, and then you're ready to go. So it is also quite a mobile setup. You of course have to bring the server, you have some internet wire, but also you can use our MudWT technology. But this is really the basic thing you need. And what's also quite funny to see, I think, is this is actually the use to see if you position the camera right. So you have to see the whole pitch in your panoramic video.
Hence why we have it as high as possible. Otherwise, if it's too low, we're getting too much of the crowd.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's also nice to see is that we a little bit track over here where the ball was. So you have a bit of an idea where the ball went. And there's also data we spit out as a JSON stream. So that's very interesting for analytics or for all kinds of websites to display what happens in the pitch. This is definitely a throw-in moment, as you can see. And also what you can see over here, if you schedule stuff, if you make schedules via the link matrix, you will see them appearing over here, but you can also make select the schedules manually at this location. So if you don't have any access to the link matrix, you can also schedule stuff in the server itself.
Interesting. Okay, well, perhaps we want to go back to the camera.
Okay, Mark, I will give you the mouse to...
That's great. Let me just stop sharing my screen and hopefully we revert back to our good selves. So that sort of concludes the presentation. The idea of today is just a soundbite of what we're doing in terms of some of our AI technology and setting it up. We're doing a series of webinars. We have another one next Tuesday as well on vPilot. But what we're going to do now is, we have some questions. So I'm going to take a look. So the first question, Michelle,
how are we doing this production? Yes, this is vPilot. That's totally right. This is our vPilot studio we're using. So the whole thing is switching automatically between Mark and myself based on the audio levels we produce. And yeah, as you can see, we can also get shots together if we talk both. This is indeed vPilot. And I'll show the slides we show are done with our overlay system. So the slides are actually in the Casper CG overlay system inside that we display.
And obviously, given the current times where we can't have too many people in a room, there's not a cameraman in sight. It's me and Michelle. We're trying to keep our distance from each other, 1.5 meters, which is good.
Actually, I'm safe. I have you as well.
Yeah. And we're also, and as part of vPilot, vPanel was something I mentioned earlier as well.
That's so where I control the slides with. I put next to my head. So this is where I actually did turn on the slides in the video, and actually I can show it live. So this is the video. I leave up, and then we go up, and there's the video again. So that's how I controlled the whole broadcast, all the slides you did see.
Yep. Next question, what sports does it support?
We have handball, we have inner bandy or floorball, that's a kind of indoor ice hockey you see a lot in the Nordics. We have basketball, soccer, futsal, rugby. And we're working on water polo.
Yep.
We think it's a very interesting sport because it doesn't get that much attention, but it's done with a ball which actually always floats on the water, so it's not that difficult to track, actually, we noticed. And we're looking also in horse racing and horse jumping,
yeah. So it might be worth showing that. Can we lift the camera?
Yeah, you can lift it. Just...
Yep. So here we have the X-Cam, so it's a panoramic camera. So we've actually been approached for other sports like horse jumping, but also winter sports as well. So the idea is this could be on the side of a mountain doing a panoramic view of the whole hillside. And as the skier comes down, it could track the skier in real time. And again, say if you're having the cameraman, it will, using AI, will track the skier coming down. So we've got some quite interesting opportunities that we're looking at. We're always looking at adding more sports. And obviously, when we set up the game, we also set up the genre because for every sport has its own rules that the AI needs to understand. So it's just a case of needing to, when we introduce a new sport, we just need to be able to sort of understand it and learn from it.
Yeah.
Next question from Alan. Is the WebGL AnyView available in live mode or only during playback?
Yeah, also in live mode. Yes, no problem. You can use it in live mode as well.
Can we add logos?
Yes, you can upload we didn't show that, but you can create your own overlays. I showed an example of it, but you can create your own overlays. And only the location of the score is fixed, so you have to take our template, but then around you can create everything you want. You can put text in it, you can do different pictures, logos, whatever.
Good, good. Is the joystick control of the camera views as simple as plugging in a USB joystick?
Yeah, it's a USB joystick, yes. And what you use for gaming or for security, the low-cost security camera joysticks, yes.
Can you automatically detect the local scoreboard and sync with your graphics score? That's what we talked about, the OCR
Yeah.
and stuff.
Yeah, what we actually, if you enable the OCR, then we actually use the OCR in combination with our own AI to put on the score. So we do a check. So if we see the scoreboard goes up and we also detect it, then we put it on. And then we're using the AI to detect the replay moment. So if the score goes up, then we're looking for the first moment before that the goal was in the ball was in the goal. Then we start a replay 30 seconds before that moment.
Okay. OCR, if you're not sure, it's optical character recognition. So it's automatic. So you can have basically a virtual camera just on the scoreboard itself. Can the virtual camera follow the ball and the players without presets of the corners of the field if you do not need the statistics?
Yeah, the camera will look for the ball, but if you don't put in the dots I showed you, then of course the numbers, the locations we put out on JSON have no real value. And of course we cannot distinguish balls outside the pitch and balls inside the pitch. So sometimes you see those guys running around a bit with balls, or ball boys, or ball girls. And then yeah, if there is no other ball, then you can get confused. But of course it is possible, yes, but it doesn't.
Actually, the other thing it does quite nicely is it's predictive look ahead, isn't it? So sometimes you see the camera start to move before the ball's being kicked. So it's all this predictive.
Yeah, yeah. We use a lot of technology to if you lose the ball, if we're losing the AI detection for some time to look, of course, in the future if you can see it already and then give a projection of the ball.
Let's have a look. What is the box on the column?
Oh, yes.
Well, that's a very good question. And over here, can we see this?
Yes.
So this is an audio capture device built in a panoramic style. Michel, do you want to talk a bit about this? It's a new invention.
Yeah, this is our audio array. So we got a lot of questions from the more professional sport producing companies. They have some issues with the audio because we have a single microphone input that you can connect a microphone, but then you get audio from everything. And of course, with sports, audio is actually 50% of the whole social believing and hearing the whistles of the screaming of the players. So we're adding this audio array so that we can actually also follow the audio of the play. So you really hear the players kicking the ball. And we're doing that by following the 4 different microphones you did see, but we can also make more virtual microphones and make it more gradual. But that's in development, also release April NAB time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Soon. It's coming.
Yeah, soon. Yes.
Order now or deliver it in time. Salesman. Now, what happens when 2 or 3 balls in a soccer field or in a basketball arena?
Yeah, then the AI will zoom out. So it sees more balls, and then of course it will start zooming out. Then it just waits until the balls disappear, and then it goes to the ball which is more valid to be the right one.
The main ball.
Yeah, and of course there is a lot of algorithms under the hood that try to filter out those things, because with AI you find balls and players, but of course under the hood there are mismatches of false positives or false negatives. So there is a lot of logic under the hood also that tries to filter out those misses.
Okay. Well, Michel, I think we've gone through all the questions. We've got a couple of things that we can send you. If you go to the second to last slide, I believe.
This one, yes.
Right. So I appreciate there's a lot to take in there, but what we can do, if you email me afterwards, and I'm going to put my email address up in a minute, is that we have a couple of resources where you can see games. So on Facebook, we have a closed account where you can join. But the nice thing about that, we have games being live streamed in real time from Ajax and Porto and a few others. There's issue rights around those. That's why we can't make it open, but we can certainly look at that, or you can look at that in real time. And it's just basically showing that, there's no sort of marketing gimmick going on here. What you see is what you get. And it does work. We have plenty of customers out there using it for different sports and genres, from the low level to the high level in terms of clubs. And also on YouTube, which is open, we have our own what we call Sport Local channel as well. So again, if you go to the next slide, Michel, hopefully it shows my email address. There we go. So at the bottom there, m.andrews@mobileviewpoint.com. I do have a presentation, a much bigger presentation that I'm happy to share. Also, if we're recording this Zoom session as well, so we can send the link, which we'll probably put up on social media as well. But by all means, if this technology is of interest, if you need to know more, by all means, drop me an email and happy to have a chat. Also, please sign up for our next webinar that we're doing next Tuesday, which will be on vPilot, which is the production system here. So the idea, again, is to go into a bit more behind the scenes, how you set it up in terms of the operations and the administration panel, just to show off some of its feature functionality and the type of people who use it. Now, there's no more questions. So, Michel,
Yes.
I don't know if you've got anything more to say?
Yeah, I want to thank everybody for his time and attention for this webinar. And yeah, stay tuned, because I think the coming months, this will the way how we meet each other.
Sure.
And also with the lack of real sports games going on, we will show you some more replays in the near future on our website, so you can check the AI and you can check the overlays, and actually also you can of course get a one-to-one demo, so you can play around with the buttons yourself instead of me doing it.
It is true. I think Zoom has become our best friend recently in the current times, the very strange times we're having. So on that note, I would just like to thank everybody for joining us this afternoon from where in the world you're joining. Hopefully we'll see you again next Tuesday. We wish you well. Everybody stay safe. And until next time, thank you for joining.